Welcome back to the Breakout Barn. On tonight's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently than that I brought up last episode, 2 episodes ago, something like that. We are going to be doing the long-awaited, probably not by many, frequently asked questions and answers segment. Relatively short video, just addressing some of the things that I commonly see pop up on the different platforms. Currently, we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Discord. And obviously, the demographics change pretty drastically between each one of those platforms. With that being said, I might see a question that pops up a few times that I'll answer on YouTube or in a private message, but then that question might get posted on Instagram. So I figured that this was a fairly good way to address all of those, since the main content provider here is YouTube and everything else is just an ancillary way to reach people. So I parsed through the list of questions and only got one rude one, which was pretty surprising to me because it's the internet and nobody is ever 100% liked on the internet, except for maybe guy Mark. Can't remember his last name. Builds cool stuff. Used to be a NASA engineer. Made the phone prank stuff. He's probably pretty universally liked, but not many people are. So bring on the haters. They fuel my something. I'm not good at that. So anyways, I'm just gonna run through the questions that I got, and if you guys have any follow-up questions, anything like that, feel free to, mosquito, maybe? If you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to do the same thing. Join the Discord, leave them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, send me an email. I think my email address is on YouTube. And we're just going to dive right in, because why not? We'll do it live, Dan Rather style. So one that I get a lot, and I did a lot of this in the earlier videos, and I kind of let it die off in the later ones, is the Comrade Kartoshka stuff. And what I'm saying in my horrible Russian accent is Comrade Kartoshka. So for years I have indulged in video games, and my online persona, name, whatever, has always been Hot Potato for probably the last decade or so. And I live in Connecticut, which is a few steps away from a communist state. If you're not familiar with Connecticut, here in the good old US of A, we have a lot of frivolous laws that restrict a significant amount of freedoms. To give you some insight into that and why I feel so strongly about how socialist our state is becoming. 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago at this point, actually probably 3 months ago, it was pre-lockdown. 3 months ago, our town proposed an ordinance that would prohibit people from using ATVs, dirt bikes, go-karts, golf carts, pretty much any recreational vehicle within 1,000 feet of another residence, I think. The first offense was a $750 fine. The second offense was a $1,400 fine, and the third offense was a seizure. So that sentiment carries through a significant portion of Connecticut. With that being said, Connecticut is a beautiful place to live. We have great weather a significant chunk of the year. We get to experience all the seasons. I'm an hour and a half to New York. I'm an hour and a half to Boston. I'm 25 minutes from an airport that I can get to anywhere in the country. It's really, when you get down to it, when you look past the extremely high taxes and the frivolous laws and the restrictions of freedom and the generally shitty people, it's actually a pretty good place to live. So the Comrade Kartoshka stuff came out of a combination of Hot Potato and Socialist Connecticut and some long-running jokes with some of the people that put me up to this, honestly, because I never really had any interest in getting into YouTube and being a talking head, but here we are. Question number 2. What was your favorite car you owned, and which was your least favorite? This question, honestly, is hard to answer, right? So, 39 cars, plus probably another 20 that never made it onto the road or got parted out or whatnot. It's going to be a tie for me for favorite car. It's really hard for me to not say the Exocet, for a couple of reasons. One, I like unique things. I like things that are different from stuff that everyone else is doing, and the Exocet is definitely that. I have chassis 321 here in the States. I think they're up to 370, 380 or something like that. Extrapolated across 315 million people, there's just not that many of them around. Nobody knows what they are. And I'm not, I say that, but it's not an attention thing. I don't want the attention. I just want something that's different, right? Look at the Z's, for example. Every other Z, maybe 66% of Zs end up on Watanabe's, Panasports, whatever they are, right? It's the same wheel every single time. You're like, wow, that's a beautiful Z. I can't believe that it's silver on Watanabe's. It's just, it's all been done before, right? And I'm here to try and do something different with my own spin and take on it. The only other car that comes close to holding a candle for me is the first car that I really heavily modified. And that was a 99 Subaru Impreza Outback Sport, a GF wagon. It was a 5-speed manual 2.2 car. It was the first car that I motor swapped. It was the first car that I wide bodied. It was the first car that I did dumb stuff like side dump exhausts and bash bars on the front of it. And that I really saw how you could take something that was mass produced and make it stand out, make it fun to drive. And I drove the shit out of that car. That car took me snowboarding, it took me on road trips, it took me on scavenger hunts across New England, it took me on road rallies, it took me to my girlfriend, then fiance, then wife's in-laws down on Long Island. That car really did a lot for me in terms of cars in general, right? Up until that point, I had owned a few cars that I had done things like coilovers and exhausts, but I never really dug into the DNA of a car like I did with that one. And that car's nickname was the Turtle, and I still definitely miss the Turtle. Went to a kid in upstate New York who I'm pretty sure swapped some terrible wheels onto it and then just let it rust into nothing. So that kind of sucks. Least favorite car. Oh boy. I think it's actually a truck. I would say it's an 04 Dodge Dakota quad cab with I don't remember, I think it had a 6-foot bed. It wasn't a full-size bed, but it had the 4.7 V8, and that thing was a loaf of shit. And I should have known better because I worked for Dodge at one point. But the truck came up. It was a phenomenal deal. It was like $1,800 back in 2012, I guess it would have been. It had 100,000 miles on it. I think I put 15 miles on that thing before a top radiator hose exploded. It started lifter ticking like a mother effer. It was just it was a horrible investment. Sold it for probably the biggest loss of my car flipping career. And do not miss that loaf of shit one bit. Not even a little. I'm pretty sure it was a lemon. But moving on. Car number 3. What car do you regret selling? Another tough one. Excluding Turtle from this because of all the reasons that I listed before that, I would have to say a 77 Porsche 924. And actually, that's really close because I had a 77 Celica GT Coupe as well, and I loved the shit out of that car. That car was a blast, and I never got enough time with either of them. And I think that if I had spent more time with both of them, I would have really enjoyed them. The Porsche 924 platform, by the way, horribly underpowered. One of the most fun cars to drive. There's a saying that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car slow. And the Porsche 924 kind of embodies that entire sentiment, right? It was a 2-liter slant 4 Volkswagen motor, dogleg 5-speed, but the thing the suspension was tuned beautifully from the factory. The 2-liter motor was indestructible, but it just lacked a lot of balls. If I could take one of those cars back, it might be that one. And, and my sentiment might change, but I just think that I shortchanged it. I sold them early, and I really didn't get a fair chance to experience the car for what it was designed with. And I didn't really get and maybe my opinion might change on that, but I sold the car what I consider early. I didn't really give the car a fair shot to show me what it was capable of, and I think that if I had spent more time with it, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Definitely, I think of things that I regret. that's probably those two. Question number 4. Do you work for a dealership? I saw your Milford Auto Group shirt, but thought you said you were in automation. Yes and yes. So my career path has been convoluted to say the least. I worked for a Jeep dealer that turned into a Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealer towards the end of it, and then I left there and went to an independent shop for 3 years-ish, 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that, before I left the industry altogether. And that was 2013, I believe, 2013. So I've been out of the industry, of the automotive industry for 7 years now at this point. And yes, I'm now in industrial automation. I worked for a power transmission house prior to the company that I'm with now. If you are young and you are at all mechanically minded, extroverted, electrically minded, engineer, whatever, we need people in our industry drastically. I know everyone wants to be a computer programmer, but there is a big gap with a lot of people retiring in industrial automation. If you have any more questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. I've done some guest lecturing in some of our local universities about it, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's trying to make a career decision around it. For me, it's a blast. I get to do something different every day, right? In the morning, I could be in a board game factory. In the afternoon, I could be in an asphalt quarry. The next day, I could be in an ice cream factory, and the day after that, I could be in Mossberg. Mossberg was one of my companies that I serviced. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to shoot me a message. Ask me anything. I definitely want to help people understand the industry better and what we do for companies. What did I go to school for? Kind of a follow-up to number 4. I actually went to school for film and psychology. And in 2008, the market collapsed when I was in college. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was looking at graduating with a master's in film and psychology. Enrolled in a 5-year program at the school that I was in. And at the time, those were horrible career choices when there was zero market for them. So that was when I actually joined the automotive industry. Prior to that, it was just a hobby for me. So professionally speaking, from 2009 to 2013, I worked on cars. And actually, I think it was early 14. Yeah, January 14, I got out of cars. So that's kind of where the video stuff comes in. I always wanted to go to film school. Once I was in film school, I realized that I needed a backup plan because there's very few people outside of advertising that make it in the film production that I wanted to do. And I wanted to be reasonable approaching this stuff. So psychology. Figured out that I got some stuff wrong with me. Good to go. Number 6, what camera and editing software do you use? So first couple videos, quality obviously kind of crap. That was a GoPro Hero 2. I did a ton of research before I bought my next camera. And I ultimately landed with a GoPro Hero 7 Black, which is what I'm talking to you on now. For a number of reasons. It primarily came down to my use. I'm not exactly working in the cleanest environment. I have a DSLR, but I have a pre-video era DSLR, if you will, and I did not want to deal with trying to film essentially a car show, but a repair car show on a DSLR. So I opted for the GoPro. There's a significant amount of accessories out there. Both aftermarket and GoPro exclusive. There's a ton of support. The video formats and the quality is good enough. You can definitely tell that it's shot on a GoPro. It's not a large format image sensor or anything like that, but it gets the job done, and it gets the job done well. As far as editing software goes, I use DaVinci Resolve. I think we're on 16 now. If you haven't played around with it, the free version of it is extremely powerful. I used Final Cut Pro before that, and there's not much that you can't do in the free version of DaVinci Resolve that you can do in Final Cut Pro for your average video maker. This next one is a little bit deep, and I'm not sure if it was a troll question or not, but I'm going to answer it. And it is, what do you hope to achieve on YouTube? Totally loaded question, right? I love my day job. I am not going to quit it, regardless of my YouTube stature. I'm not out there pouring out my YouTube channel, trying to get likes and subscribes and all of that. I don't know if you know, I don't think that I've actually mentioned likes or subscribes in a video to this point. So I guess I broke that streak. That's what, video 11, 10, something like that. Sorry guys. Yeah, I'm not trying to get famous. I want to document what it takes for a hobbyist to do serious modifications to cars, and I want to try and pass along some of the knowledge that I was lucky enough to absorb from really great mentors along the way. Some of the methods that I've learned you can't find on YouTube, and it's not because it's simply because somebody just hasn't taken the time to document it, right? And it could be something really stupid. Like I learned one trick from this guy Pete, Papa Pete, who about drilling bushings on control arms, right? And it's something that I'll get to when I get to the subframe stuff. But I mean, it's a little stuff like that, little granules of knowledge that I was lucky enough to work with people that had enough experience, tribal and book, to share a lot of the stuff with me, right? So if I can pass along some of those information, if I can make someone's life a little bit easier, if I can change something for the better for someone, then I feel like I've accomplished something on YouTube. I think I'm just at just under 100 subscribers now at the time of this video, which is great. I think YouTube analytics say that almost 4,000 different people have clicked through the channel. I think 1,500 have made it through more than 10 minutes of watching. So if you're any one of those 1,500, thanks for keeping me motivated to do this. And we're going to keep on keeping on. It's part of the reason why I keep asking for you guys to ask questions, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that's stuffed into my brain that I don't know that it's important to someone until the question comes up. I guess this fits in a similar vein to the question. I've been asked a couple of times as well, and I didn't include it specifically on this list. What am I going to do after the Z? And my answer is I always have stuff going. I have a 1953 Massey Ferguson TO30 that has been dying for a little bit of restoration. Not crazy stuff like this, but it needs a fresh coat of paint, needs some new brakes, some new tires, stuff like that. Could be an episode or two. I've been thinking a lot about building another kit car, just because of how much I enjoy the Exo set, and there's some really cool kit cars and stuff like that are coming onto the market. I also like doing really goofy motor swaps, and I found a guy that is now importing Ford Barra stuff. So I might find a relatively obscure platform and drop a Ford Barra in it. From my time at Chrysler Dodge Jeep, I drove my fair share of turbo PT Cruisers. Always thought about building one of those. One of the things that I really want to do is I want to find a couple of other YouTube whatever the hell I am that are into cars, and I want to do kind of like a build off. So if you can think of anyone that would be up for doing something as goofy as like $1,000 autocross challenge, right? So you got $1,000 budget, go out, buy whatever car you can find local to you for $1,000, and let's go racing. If anyone's up for that, let me know. You can make a couple of parts out of it, and I want to continue to interact and give back to the car community and create content that's both enjoyable to watch and educational. So if I can continue to do that, then I think it'll make me feel good, which is what life is about: doing stuff that makes you feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, stop doing it. So we're gonna keep going. Number 8. Have you thought about a donation link or Patreon? The answer is yes to both and no. I just, at this point in time, I'm not comfortable with just taking money for what I'm doing. I feel like I get it's content creator and it's entertainment, and if people want to try and support me that way, then great. But I never started this with the intention of making money. It's part of the reason why these episodes are they're a little bit spaced out. And the more that I think about it, I've donated to content creators that this is their full-time gig. This is not a full-time gig for me. So if it was, then the answer would probably be different. So I've been wrestling with this because this question has come up a couple of times since probably video 3 or 4. And it's a few of the same people, and I really appreciate your support, guys. I do. But I want to feel like it's a fair bargain, right? So what I did is I actually went out and had some t-shirts made. This is something that I feel comfortable with, right? So if you guys are interested in supporting me, I have a bunch of these t-shirts in black, like a charcoal heather gray and a British racing green. It's the Breakout Barn logo on the front, and then the back, if you can't figure out that it's a car themed show or whatever this is, then poo-poo, I guess. But Breakout Barn around a 5-speed shifter, because I think I've actually owned one 6-speed car. Everything else has been 5-speed. So they're Hanes Comfort Soft, tagless, 100% cotton, machine wash dryable, nothing crazy to them. Your standard, like you would get at a concert band t-shirt. I'll have a couple links up on where to get them. Feel free to contact me. And that's probably going to be the extent of it for now. I feel more comfortable exchanging tangible goods for money in an effort to support me. This video is not sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. It's just sponsored by me, right? So if you guys feel so inclined, if you really want to be belligerent about trying to support the efforts here, and who knows, maybe some of those dollars will go towards lights, then that's going to be the option that I'm going to set forth. So again, I really appreciate it for those who are interested, and if you want a shirt and you think it's cool, hit me up. This one is for Stevie Handlebars. How many piston rings did you fry when you raced Dom Toretto? None. Would have loved to have been a part of the movies. Played a huge impact in my youth. I think the first one came out when I was 12. I remember seeing it in theaters and sitting there and I think that goes for a lot of people in my age demographic. Great movies. Haven't fried any piston rings. Spun a lot of bearings. That's when I got out of Subarus. Had 7 Subarus. Spun bearings in like half of them. But never fried piston rings. So on the list of shit to do. Where'd you learn all this stuff? That's number 10. It's a combination of stuff, right? So I bought my first house when I was 21. I was a mechanic at the time, and I was tired of paying $1,200 or $1,300 a month in rent to someone who was just laughing the way to the bank with the check. After I bought said house, I was broke as shit. I was super duper broke. I had some roommates to support me. It was a pretty cool gig. Owned my own little slice of paradise in good old West Haven, Connecticut. But my only option when stuff broke was to learn how to fix it. Back in the early 2010s was kind of the onset of the YouTube craze. Forums were still a thing back then, and it was honestly, it was just a lot of confidence. It was a lot of, I'm young, I have time, I have tools. If I don't have tools, then you buy it once and you can do it 100 times, right? So I learned through a lot of trial and error, and that's where some of the methods that I use when I fix cars, when I do all of that, is stuff that I've picked up, my own travel knowledge from working on cars in the last 14 years. And everything else has been either through a phenomenal mentor that I worked with, or a friend, or a forum, or YouTube, right? And a lot of it is just the confidence to turn that first bolt. I had no idea what I was doing the first time I pulled a valve cover to crinkle paint it. I didn't know what was underneath the valve cover. I didn't know any of that, but I knew that I wanted that look, and I was going to try and find it. And if I screwed it up, I was going to learn how to fix it. And that to me was cool. It's take it apart. How does it work? Let's try and put it back together. Let's try and make it a little bit better. Number 11. Do you watch any other car or vehicle YouTubers? A few. I'm not gonna lie, I watched a bunch on 240Z V8 swaps, trying to get some hints and tricks and to see where other people had ran into questions, and that's kind of what motivated me to do this, honestly, because the content out there is not as in-depth as I think that I'm going. And there's a couple out there that they start off really cool, and then like 2 years later a video pops up and it's like, hey guys, we finished that Z and we sold it. And I'm like, fuck! You know, so I don't have time really to keep up on a lot of the regular stuff. I watched a lot of Mighty Car Mods when, you know, probably before I had kids. Before I had kids, I had time to do a lot of shit. So if you're thinking about having kids and enjoy cars and hobbies, don't do it. So I watched a lot of Mighty Car Mods, Roadkill guys. My problem, and this is going to sound very of me, is that a lot of those guys have unfortunately gotten commercialized, and I think that they've lost the initial message that they set out to get through. Mighty Car Mod's not so much, but the Roadkill guys, I think so. Once they got picked up by Motor Trend or whatever that deal was, it just kind of felt washed out to me a little bit. Being perfectly honest, I grew up watching Top Gear. UK Top Gear, American Top Gear is trash. Don't care. I will die on that hill. It sucked. It's always sucked. They tried way too hard. Chemistry wasn't there. UK Top Gear, amazing. The chemistry that the three of them have, the blend of well-written automotive journalism with actual technical information and entertainment is perfect in that show. Grand Tour, love the Grand Tour. First season, totally meh. Didn't care about the American, was definitely part of the group that hated the celebrity death, whatever it was, celebrity death match, celebrity crush, I don't know, whatever it was. My daughter is getting into both of those, which is amazing. Those guys I think are kind of my idols when it comes to the car stuff, and I think that goes for a lot of people. If you're watching this, it's the adventures that they have, the camaraderie that they have, the knowledge and the experience is something that I'm definitely envious of. And I'm not envious so much. I love my life. I love where I am. Even my shitty, disgusting barn, it's great. So hat tip to those guys for sure. I will say that I've watched a fair amount of James May's YouTube channel as well. The Tinker Repair, whatever it is, the one where he takes shit apart and puts it back together. Just because I'm a mechanically minded person, and that stuff's always fascinated me. If you haven't watched it, it's definitely worth the watch. Number 12, why won't you fix your fucking lights? Simple answer is time. We have another baby on the way, due in August, and I have about 18 DIY projects that I got to about 80% and then just because I just hate drywall and I cannot stand painting, and I will do all of that, but I will not do it willingly. The short and sweet of it is, there are other home improvement projects that I would rather spend my time on, and when I get out into the barn, if nothing is broken, my lights suck. Yes, I know they suck. They turn on and off, they do whatever. I have those 3 up. I haven't done any more since. So this is an escape for me. Coming out here is an escape. Fixing cars, as frustrating as it can be, those nights suck. But for the most part, I get to occupy my mind with things that aren't work or stress-related life stuff. So the lights are coming. I've just got other things that are more important at this point when it comes to home improvement stuff. So in my time budget on a weekly basis, it just hasn't hit that point yet. I'm getting closer, but there's a list of stuff that I have to finish before the baby gets here. 100%, lights can wait. How do you get your hair to do that thing? Number 13. 13? Number 13. Not quite sure what that thing is. Most of the time, it's just like this. It's a lot of that action right there. I think that's that thing. Yeah. Number 14, Discord link broken, question mark. It's not really a question, but I get what you're saying, and I have some sad news, fellow Discorders. Not that there were many of you, I think there were maybe 35 people on Discord. For those who don't know what Discord is, it's effectively, it's the easiest way to describe this. It's like a giant group chat, but there's different channels. So Discord is an app that I believe was originally developed for gamers, probably because that's where I learned of it. But it's effectively a large group chat room with multiple different channels in each server that you can use for communication purposes. And sad to say that enough people, I guess, reported my Discord, but it got reported as spam and shut down. So if you guys are wondering where it's been for the past 2 days, 3 days at this point, it's because it got deleted by Discord. I'm emailed Discord customer support, and they have not gotten back to me yet. I don't know why, which is not like them because normally they're really good, but yeah, whole thing. So I guess I'm going to make a new one if they don't open it back up. I'm going to post the join link in the description, update all the videos so that it's actually active and working again. Sorry if you guys were in there and you want to come back in. It's easily the best place to just talk directly to me. Fairly active on it. I check a couple times a day, or if I'm editing or if I'm playing a game or something like that, it's always up. So if you guys have more direct questions, you want some build advice, you want questions about where I sourced any of this stuff, questions about where I source tools, question about any of that stuff, feel free to join there. Definitely the least cumbersome means of communication that I have. That being said, this probably went longer than I anticipated. 14 questions. I'm guessing I rambled for 2 minutes, so this is probably going to be another half-an-hour video. So I do genuinely want to thank you guys. The questions and the feedback are what keep me doing this. It's boring to some for sure, but I'm trying to be honest. I do edit out a significant amount. Each half-hour long episode is probably 4 or 5 hours of filming, and then probably another hour and a half or 2 hours of editing. So it's no small feat to make this happen, and some nights it's definitely tiring, but I genuinely appreciate the feedback and the criticism and all of that. Tell me that my lighting sucks on the camera, not on my roof. Tell me that you don't like the way that I did something. One guy really didn't like the way that I flocked my dash. Swears that you should only use a foam roller. And you have to use a blast gun to embed the fibers into the dash, which I guess is true, but people have been doing it the way that I did it for hundreds of years. Literally, that is how flocking started. There's nothing wrong with the way that I do it. There's nothing wrong with the way that he does it. It's just 2 different languages of flocking. There's a Spanish saying, I believe it's cada oveja a su pareja, and it's basically to each his own. Keep it coming, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. We will have more car-related stuff in not next episode, but the following episode. Next episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and I think it's kind of cool. So, see you then.